Did you know that if you're an executor in Canada, you're entitled to compensation? Hi, Nancy Beauvais here with Agape and NEXsteps. Executor compensation is a very misunderstood concept in estate planning. Most executors don't even understand that they are entitled to compensation. The common law provinces in Canada all recognize that being an executor is a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of organization, and depending on the complexity of the estate, it can be a very onerous task. And like any job, you're entitled to compensation for that job. But it can be a very touchy subject, especially if the beneficiaries don't understand that the executor is entitled to that fee. That fee varies based on the jurisdiction, and it varies based on the complexity of the estate. Most provinces across the country allow for somewhere between 2 and 5% of the value of the assets of the estate to be claimed for as executor fees. But that doesn't mean that automatically you're going to get charged 5% of the value of the estate. If the estate is very straightforward and it hasn't required that much time and effort comparable to other more complex estates, then if it's challenged, it's highly likely that the courts are going to award a much lower executor fee. But most people don't understand that this even is an option, and that's where the problem starts. So if you're doing your estate planning right now, and you've named your executor, and you've spoken to your executor, and that they're willing to act in that role, make sure that you include something in your will about executor compensation. It's an easy thing to do. Just You don't have to name a fee. You can just put in there that it's in the guidelines of the province or jurisdiction in which you live. Or you can just even mention that you understand that there will be a lot of work to settle the estate and that the executor will be able to charge the estate some kind of compensation fee. Now, these are not to be confused with estate expenses. Expenses are a totally different category. An expense, just like if you're doing a business expense, that is something that you undertook on behalf of the estate and settling the estate. Those are automatically compensated by the estate with the receipts for the amounts that you have been out of pocket. The executor fee is actually income. And here's something that a lot of people also don't understand, is that if you are going to claim that executor fee, it is taxable as income, and you will be taxed at your marginal tax rate, just like any other income. The estate has to issue you a T4A, and then you will claim that as income on your tax return. Now, in some cases, depending on your personal circumstances, it may not make sense to take an executor fee. If you're going to be claiming that as income for your own personal taxes, it may make more sense when the planning stages are going on to talk about a slightly larger share of the estate if the executor is also named as a beneficiary. If the executor is not a beneficiary of the estate, then you can also make an allowance that the executor would receive some kind of a portion of the estate value. And that would be one way to compensate the executor without them having to claim that as personal income and without the estate having to issue that T4A. Now, if this is not communicated clearly, it can create a lot of problems with the beneficiaries. Beneficiaries might be aware, even in a ballpark amount, of what the value of the estate is, and they're going to expect a certain amount of an inheritance out of that. A lot of misunderstanding comes from the fact that a lot of beneficiaries take that gross amount, if they're aware of that gross amount, and they calculate their share based on what that value is. They don't understand that all of the taxes, all of the debts of the deceased person have to be settled before there is any kind of payout. That includes taxes, that includes legal fees, that includes accounting fees, that includes any outstanding debts that the deceased may have had. And if there are executor fees, that comes out as well before any kind of distribution. So if you are going to take executor fees, make sure that you communicate that intention with the beneficiaries. Communication with beneficiaries is very important and should be happening at regular stages just to keep them in the loop, keep them satisfied that the estate is moving forward. Estates can grind through a long time and a lot of delays. But if you communicate with the beneficiaries and let them know where the stages are, don't set false expectations by saying when you think it's going to be settled. Just let them know where things are. And make sure that you do communicate at some point that you do intend to take an executor fee. That prepares them. If it's mentioned in the will, that's even better because that has provided the deceased's wishes and that the executor is entitled to compensation for the work that they're doing to settle the estate. I'm a certified executor advisor. I can help you navigate some of these things when you're doing your planning or if you're doing the estate administration. So reach out if you have any questions. As always, I've got an article over on the website. The link is in the description box, and I invite you to hop over and learn a little bit more about how this could impact you as the executor or as the beneficiary. So thanks very much for joining me this week. I look forward to sharing more with you next time. Bye for now.